The Chicago Bulls really seem to be like one of the best teams in the NBA to start off the season. They were a dominant team on both sides of the ball, not to mention they were the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference for a pretty good amount of time. And if you were to ask some people who they thought was going to come out the Eastern Conference Finals, they were probably going to tell you the Chicago Bulls. At least that's what was going on until as of recently. Currently, the Chicago Bulls are playing their worst basketball right now, and it's not exactly fully their fault. There's a lot of stuff going on that I do want to talk about, because not only do I genuinely like the Chicago Bulls in this team, but I like to watch them play. I love players like DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball. They're a fun team to watch, and it really does suck that they're going through a really bad stretch right now. Of course, before I get into the content, if you guys could leave a like on this and subscribe to the channel if you're new and notifications on. We are trying to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, and your subscription would be greatly appreciated. Also, you should join my Discord server. We talk basketball. In fact, one of our Discord members has actually been streaming some Phoenix Suns games. So if you want a place where you can chill, talk basketball, talk about life, I also do ask you guys for your opinions on certain videos. So if you do want to help out with videos, make sure you guys do join the Discord. With all that being said, let's get into the video. If there's any point I want to attack first, it has to be the injuries going on within Chicago. After losing Alex Caruso for I think 6 to 8 weeks because of that Grayson Allen play, losing Lonzo Ball for I also think 6 to 8 weeks, Patrick Williams has already missed some time, so I'm not really going to focus on him, but this says he'll be back in about 4 to 6 months, and they lost Derrick Jones Jr. And on paper, some of these guys may not be the best players on Chicago, but you have to remember that one of the reasons why Chicago was so good, it was straight up because of their depth. And now they're starting to lose some of that depth, and it's really hitting Chicago like a ton of bricks. Within their last 10 games, they have a record of 4-6. What kind of frustrates me is there were certain games that I really thought that they should have won. And I will say, losing to teams like the Bucks, the Magic, the Grizzlies, and the Warriors aren't necessarily the worst thing in the world, but I really think they should have beaten teams like the Celtics and the Magic. And I'd like to argue that they might be better than Milwaukee. And I mean, people can compare Milwaukee and Chicago, and they say they have a close comparison, and Milwaukee only really won that game by 4, so somehow, as this team has slowly started to dismantle a little bit, losing a lot of games as of recently and just not looking the same, they are somehow still the 2 seed with a record of 30-17 and are 1 game off, actually technically half a game, the Miami Heat being the 1 seed, and they're definitely well deserving of it right now. What's crazy is that during this whole season, Chicago has faced so much adversity, and yet they've still been able to be a pretty good team in the NBA. Remember when Chicago had nearly their whole roster out due to Rona? They were going through that period where they started to drop some games, but they eventually came back stronger than ever. And to be honest, just like the Steph Curry video I made yesterday, which if you have not, make sure you do check that out. Steph Curry is falling apart right now, but I don't think he's going to end like this for the rest of the season. It's the same way that I feel about the Chicago Bulls. I don't see this team being down for long, but they're going through something right now that could impact them later on. While yes, they do have a lot of depth on their team, there is the struggle of the fact when you lose almost all of your not only depth, but most of your players. And Rona is still a really big deal in the world, and we have no idea when this whole thing is gonna end. Luckily in the NBA, it seems like the outbreaks have kind of started to slow down a little bit. I haven't seen that many players get it as of recently, but the NBA, just like the world, is inevitable to more outbreaks happening. They have started to mess with the restrictions a little bit, or things that happen when you eventually do enter the protocol, so I think this will be good for the NBA, but it might mess with the health and safety of the players. Now, Chicago Bulls fans hated me in the last video because I didn't talk about Nikola Vucevic, and I think that's someone that we need to talk about. And Nikola Vucevic, it's a very confusing thing. The man will play like the best offensive player, and he's so damn talented, and then there's games where it's like, why are you even in the NBA? And as NBA YouTuber Rusty Buckets put, the Bulls have the best offense in basketball when Vucevic is playing like his old self. And there's no doubt in my mind that that word definitely does hold truth to it. Now, statistically, Nikola Vucevic is having a down year when it comes to scoring, but that doesn't shock me, because number one, yeah, he's not playing like his best self, but number two, we have to remember the fact that he's playing with a lot more talent this year. Last season, Chicago did not have Lonzo Ball, who has turned into a better scorer than ever before. They also did not have DeMar DeRozan, who is still the MVP candidate that has kind of started to not get that much attention as of lately. To be fair, this man Joel Embiid is playing really good basketball right now, so I can see why they're not talking about the other candidates as much. Alex Caruso has still been a very good scorer for them, not to mention they picked up a bunch of more depth like I've mentioned before. So to think that Nikola Vucevic's production wouldn't go down a little bit really would not make that much sense to me. His usage percentage went from 28% last year to 23% this year. On the offensive side, Nikola Vucevic has not been the best thing to ever exist, but on the defensive side, he's still just as good as ever before. His defensive win shares are the highest they've ever been ever since he was in Orlando, which was around the 2019 season. He's averaging around the same number of rebounds as he mostly does, which is around the 11.4 mark, and his defensive rebound percentage has stayed around 31% for a majority of the season. It seems like his value to the team has gone down a little, like with his PER dropping to 17.4, but I think I need to remind you guys that Chicago picked up so much depth and so many good players, so of course his percentages and all of that is going to go down. I can't really say that, oh, I think in a month the Chicago Bulls are going to go back to the winning ways, because realistically, unlike the Steph Curry situation, the Bulls really have no control. There could be injuries or a Rona outbreak, but most importantly, the Chicago Bulls are still a top seed in the East, and like I mentioned, they're only half a game back from the 1 seed. It does make me wonder, with the Golden State Warriors going through a slump kind of similar to the Chicago Bulls, do you guys think the Miami Heat could pull a Phoenix Suns and start to develop their win streak and maybe even get a bigger gap from the 1 seed to 2 seed? During Golden State's little slump they got going on, the Phoenix Suns are on an 8-game win streak right now, and it doesn't look like the Golden State Warriors are going to be able to catch them unless the Phoenix Suns manage to go through their own little slump. The point I'm trying to make is that if the Chicago Bulls do not start winning some games and Miami gets hot, the Chicago Bulls could really start dropping not only in their seeding but in stuff like their confidence. Now, like I've said before, I'm not saying that if you get the number 1 seed you're guaranteed a spot in the NBA Finals, but statistically it plays in favor of the team that's in the number 1 seed 77% of the time. I also feel like when a team becomes the number 1 seed in their Western Conference, they are the representative of that conference. I feel like it's a really cool feeling, and the fact that you were the best team in your conference out of that whole regular season, it also does stamp a mark as you guys being contenders. The fact of the matter is that the Chicago Bulls are falling apart right now, and if they don't get stuff situated, they could be in a rude awakening when it comes playoff time. I want you guys to remember the fact that we're almost halfway throughout the NBA season. In fact, I think we actually are halfway through the NBA season. The All-Star game is literally going to be within like 2 to 3 weeks, I believe, and the play-in tournament is going to be on April 12th. So now this is the time when teams that are the 1 seed or the 2 seed really start to show their true colors. You could go 9-1 to start off the season, but if you're not a good team, people are going to find out by game 30 or 40. I know that might have sounded like a diss versus the Golden State Warriors, but I didn't want to say 10-0 because I don't know if any team actually started off 10-0, so I was just using them as an example. Because truth be told, I really don't care about the rankings throughout the first 10 to 20 games. It's around this point that I start to care. Teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors for a while, and the Bulls and the Nets have stayed at the top of their conference for a majority of the year. Within the first 10 to 20 games, not many people would have said, you know what, the Miami Heat might be contenders this year. But now we're starting to see that there are other teams that have been able to play really good. Even a team like the Lakers that have been struggling throughout the whole season, we can see that this isn't just the beginning of the year problems. This has continued to go on. The Lakers are currently the 8th seed in the Western Conference, and you know what? They've been playing like an 8th seed in the Western Conference. The Phoenix Suns have stayed the number 1 seed throughout most of the season, and you know what? The Phoenix Suns are a number 1 seed in their conference. Just like the Chicago Bulls are a top seed in their conference, and you know what? They've been playing like a top seed in their conference. I know this is a pretty old saying, and I'm pretty sure it's cliche, but I know there's a saying somewhere like, it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you end. And while the Chicago Bulls have inevitably been the number 1 seed, number 2 seed for a majority of the year, they've started to kind of fall apart, yet I think they're going to be fine. I guess time will tell whether or not the Chicago Bulls are going to be okay by the time it comes playoff time. With all of that being said, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you guys do leave a like on this and subscribe to the channel if you're new with notifications on. In the comment section below, I want you to tell me who you think is better, Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan. With all that being said, I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Have an amazing day, take care, peace.